chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from Rock Solid Studios in Granite Falls, it's time for MinneZona Sports, live with DJ Matty C. and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back. Yes, claps all around. Episode 53. We've done 53 episodes of MinneZona Sports Live. And without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Callan, a.k.a. Callan, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., etc., etc. And all the way from Woods and Shores Studios in Aiken, Minnesota, Paul Vold, the Shield. What's going on, Shield?
Not a whole heck of a lot. It feels like this week has been 10 years long, especially when you're on lockdown and you don't even move further than 20 feet from this chair to the couch, maybe to the fridge to grab something to eat or drink. And here we are. It is Wednesday. As always, another great show we've got coming up.
We really do. Voldy, we're glad to have you. And as the Kerf doctor says, get your 84 jerseys out. He's back home. It was his birthday not too long ago as well, Randy Moss.
Yes,
so
it was.
A little FYI for all our zoners out there. But, Voldy, we got a lot to get to, especially that jersey you're wearing and that hat you're wearing as well for the Minnesota Wild. And we are going to be getting to the Minnesota Twins because we gotta get to some things with them. But anyway, yeah. I think it's time to do a little bit of some tater tot. Man, hot take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it's time for some Tater Tot Hot Take. And we start things off in the state of hockey because the Minnesota Wild are back. They were dealing... Finally, exactly as Voldy is saying. They are back. Their first game back didn't go well. Lost 4-0. But, at the same time, they haven't been playing for, 2 weeks, a week, or whatever it is.
Yep.
But now the Minnesota Wild are back. We're happy. And... it's good to finally see, some of the guys that we want to see out there, especially one, Calen Addison. And the reason why I say that is because he's a young guy, right? We got him in the Zucker trade, so there's that from Pittsburgh Penguins. And the Wild are very excited because, they still have guys on the COVID list and whatnot. But Voldy, the Wild are just really high on this kid. Not that they're not high on the Dalla Kirill Kaprizov, but Calen Addison, they're really excited. He's only 20 years old. Voldy, do you think he's going to make a little bit of an impact here now that he's kind of on the Wild roster and playing in the big leagues now? What do you think?
Well, I think it's just going to be a learning process, especially with the fact that, obviously the next couple of games, next week or so is going to be crucial for these young guys to come through, especially the fact that the Wild are hurting in so many spots because of COVID and, injuries are starting to mount up as well. We may be looking at the future with Calen Addison out on the blue line. He was playing with Ryan Suter in the other game last night against, the LA Kings, but it was definitely a good start for him to see him at least get some action out on the ice as well. But I think this could be a good jumping off point for him and be one of the names that gets called quite frequently for the Wild for the next few years.
I agree. And, Dean Evison was talking about, how good of a player this kid is. And, this is all due to Bill Guerin and what he's been able to do with this with this team and getting these young guys in. They're kind of slightly pushing out the older type players, but again, you got to get younger at some point, right? Before I get into it, though, it'd be interesting to see how Randall McDaniel's nephew does, too. Exactly. I did hear about that, so you got to watch out. Randall McDaniel, legend in Minnesota Vikings lore. But, getting back to Dean Evison, what he said about Kalen Addison. We expect him to do what he does. Talk to him today about just simplifying his game. Doesn't have to do too much. Doesn't have to be Jared Spurgeon out there. He has to be Kalen Addison. And I think that's a lot of good coach speak right there. But at the same time, too, I mean, he's a young guy, and when he's out on the ice, he's just got to play his game. He's got to work with, all these other guys as well. I mean, with like a Parisi and the defenseman and with Suter and whatnot. But we're looking at the future, and can he be that guy in the future? Possibly. He made his debut last night. I mean, there really wasn't too much to write about, but you can't blame the Wild for playing the way they did. They haven't played hockey in 2 weeks. That's what it's saying right here. They really haven't played hockey in 2 weeks. COVID just kind of throws everything off balance and everything like that. So it's going to take some time for them to get back to the swing of things with hockey. But, I was looking on the Twitter sphere, Voldy, and, there are kind of a lot of upset people. They're like, oh, you have a 2-week break and you're not for fresh legs and ready to go. This is a different beast, isn't it? I mean, for goodness sake. Yeah. I mean, you can't just expect this team to start firing goals. I mean, it'd be impressive. I'm not saying it's impossible to do that, but you can't get mad at them for not being able to, do much for so long because of all this COVID. So, Voldy, what do you say to all these haters that say, oh, they shouldn't be losing 4-0 to the Kings, blah, blah, blah? What do you think?
Well, it's not like any other sport that you can, go out and just do out in your garage or out in your backyard or whatever. And when you're out 2 weeks, I mean, you're out 2 weeks. No ice time, no conditioning. You are at home. You are just trying not to get sick. If you were sick, you're trying to get better. And the fact that you throw in only a couple of days of practice when you're just trying to get your feet underneath you, especially when it was so young on the season too, only about 10 games or so into the year when this 2-week shutdown did happen. I mean, it did not help at all, the timing wise as well, when things were starting to get a little bit more fluid and, guys were starting to get a little bit more familiar with each other. Then you throw in the 2-week shutdown where there's no ice time, there's no meetings, there's nothing. You're just sitting there and you're just twiddling your thumbs until things can come back. And, obviously it's going to take 3, 4, maybe 5 games before we start seeing things start to produce back to normal for the Wild.
Yeah, and you got to see how this all plays out. You can't just assume that this team's just going to come out firing and be ready to go. I mean, like Hunt said before here, I put it up on here. They only practiced for 2 days? I mean, it's going to take some time to get that rapport back. So don't go after the Wild because they didn't come ready to play. They had all this time off. Well, shoot, do you think that they can't go out? The guys that got COVID or had close contacts, there's really not much that they can do. You want to infect more players and everything like that? I mean, the benefit in all of this, Voldy, is that they were able to rest some of the guys that were injured before this outbreak happened. Matt Dumba, for one, and you can't blame them for not playing well in this game. Now, in the next couple for the next couple days and weeks, I mean, you got to see some progression, obviously, because
right.
Get some more practice time and whatnot. Because again, this team, they're not as bad as we were thinking at first, and they're still very much they control their destiny. And again, they're going to be playing the Kings a lot. They're going to be playing all these other teams multiple times. I mean, for goodness sakes, I saw on ESPN the other day, the Blues and the Coyotes were playing each other seven straight games. It was like a game 7. And it was 3-3 too, so it was great. That's fun. But again, you got to watch and see what happens to this team as they, go forward here. And, they have to reschedule. They had to reschedule 7 games, Voldy. 7 games. Yep. So now, that gets thrown into the mix too. It's the era of COVID, and that's kind of how it has to be. Now, we'll see what happens coming up here in their next game, but again, don't pay too much mind into this whole, they should have played better. You can't blame the team for not playing well because they haven't played for how many, for how long. But one more thing I want to bring up too, from what people are saying, Addison held his own. He honestly did not look out of place, except for a couple times along the boards, but that's what you're going to get with Addison, right? He's going to have some, he'll have a couple screw-ups here and there, but that's what you got, So he had 2 shots on goal, though. So, hey, he's shooting the puck. And the Wild like to pass along the puck a lot. So there's that. All right. Anyway, that'll conclude the Wild talk. Let's move on to the Minnesota Twins. Voldy, I think they finally are – the Twins are starting to listen to me a little bit now. They've went out and got some pitching, They went out and got some relief pitchers for the bullpen. It looks good. It looks good, but there's a lot of factors into this. Now they went out, and I'll give them some credit here, Voldy. They went out and they got Matt Shoemaker, and like I say in the lower third, if the shoe fits. Now Again, this is something to where another guy that's coming off injury, right? And It looks like he's going to be kind of battling with Dobnak for that 5 spot. And to be honest, I'm okay with that. I think, I'm not trying to hate on Dobnak because I think, his story, he was a Uber driver before he started up with the Twins and whatnot, and then all of a sudden he gets thrown into Game 2 not too long ago against the Yankees, which didn't go well. But I think there's got to be a little bit more competition because Dobnak is just, I haven't seen that game where he's been like, oh my gosh, watch out for him. So, I don't know. Voldy, what do you think of the deal first here with Matt Shoemaker?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty safe deal. A guy who, is coming off a couple injury-plagued seasons, especially coming from Toronto, where he's seeing a lot of the best and a lot of, the top hitters in the league as well. I think, again, it's a safe place to put him in that number 5 spot, quite possibly battling with the likes of you throw in Randy Dobnak and others as well in that mix to maybe battle along with Devin Smeltzer and Lewis Thorpe in there as well. Is he going to be in that 5th spot? I would like to say he would be, but he could definitely be a guy that somebody gets hurt, you can slide him right into the rotation there, and he could fill in that extra spot on a couple of days' notice and be able to, fit in with the likes of, the rotation being with Jay Happ, and you also throw in Barrios and guys along with those, Kenta Maeda, Michael Pineda as well. I think it's a really safe bet. It's considering the fact that, yes, you answer a need with maybe a little more solidification for that 5th spot as well to fill out the rotation. But you're not, you're not blowing the bank on a guy who hasn't made all that many starts in the last 3-4 years.
Right. So I feel like the Twins have a habit of doing this. They're going after guys that really had great seasons not too long ago, as Hunt's mentioned here. But again, is he going to be the same after injury? And I feel like in baseball, it's hard to overcome that. But, he's been dealing with injuries. I get it. Okay, I definitely get it. But I think this is a good deal for the Twins to just kind of see where he's at, right? And it's not a bad thing to say, okay, we know that he's been good in the past. Now, is he going to be the same? Well, we'll see. But one thing that I saw from this article that I brought up for tonight here, Voldy, is that his fastball ticked up to nearly 2 miles an hour last season from an average of 90.3 miles per hour in 19 to 92.1 in 20. So that's a pretty good jump up. I mean, I can't complain with that. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Mets says they had a chance for Paxton before he went back to Seattle. Well, Mets, it's always the Twins were in contention, but they never could follow through. So that's why they probably didn't get it. But again, I would rather, honestly, I think I'm leaning more towards Shoemaker as our number 5. I mean, and they can keep switching in guys. I mean, Smeltzer, he's had some good ones, but Torpedo is a different story. I do not want Lewis Thorpe as our number 5 because honestly, every time I see him in there, it's either a home run or it's a big base hit by the other team. So
right.
Matt, breaking the bank for a starting pitcher nowadays is not a popular decision anymore. Well, if they go out and if they put out some money like they have, there's no salary cap in baseball, and the Pohlads have plenty of money that they can use, but they choose not to use it. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want
Twins are going to be dealing out any 3-year, $110 million deals. They're not going to be throwing out Trevor Bauers left and right for the rotation. I think it's a smart move. It's a low risk, high reward situation.
Yeah.
You get him for 1 year, $2 million, and if he ends up making, 10, 15 starts for you, I mean, and you get maybe 4 or 5 wins out of him, I think that's right where you want to be. You're not expecting a lot with your 5th guy in the rotation, but if he can certainly eat up a lot of innings and maybe allow the likes of, the others in the rotation, Maeda and Barrios and J-Hap too, to maybe get that extra day off that allows them to expand a little bit more with their pitching repertoire, get more innings out of them, and put them into a likely position to, repeat as division champs once again. So it's definitely a low risk, high reward situation.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. I do like the rotation. I mean, like you said, Maeda, Barrios, Pineda, can't forget about him, J-Hap. If Shoemaker is productive and he's good enough for this team, I mean, watch out. I just don't trust Dobnak. I don't trust Torpedo, for one, too. Smeltzer, okay, it's okay. It's okay. Hunt says the team on paper is better this year than last year at this time. Well, that's good. I mean, it could be. The thing is it could be much worse. And I'm not saying. Here's what I'm trying to tell the zoners too. I'm not saying what they've done is awful, because it isn't. That they're taking risks with some of these guys, but again, they're like. It's like, well, you can't just throw money at them and everything like that. But this could go wrong. All I'm saying is this could go wrong very quick. Now, you can't just assume that these guys are just going to be great. They're just going to be, Shoemaker's just going to be fantastic, and he very well may be. But at the same time, maybe with injuries and things like that, unforeseen things, you got to figure that out as well. So Hunt says 6-man rotation this year for sure will happen because of the coming off of a 60-game season. Exactly. So you have that to work with as well. The biggest question is can this rotation win a postseason series?
On paper, it can.
On paper, like
most
you
definitely
said.
On paper.
Exactly. Now, one thing I want to bring up before we move on to our next segment is that it comes down to what Matt's just brought up here is my concern as well. How will they fare in the postseason? Now, I give the pitching a lot of credit from last year, but what screwed the Twins over was that they used sabermetrics and all analytics and all this other stuff to take out Jose Barrios. I think it was game 1 or 2. I can't remember exactly. I think it was game 1. Yeah, it was game 1. No. It was No, it was the
It was
last
game
game.
2.
Yeah, game 2. You're right. It's game 2. And they took him out after this. He was dealing, man. He was kicking butt. And Baldelli takes him out. You got to ride with the hot hand. Voldy, we've talked about this plenty of times. Now, my question is, can management know what to do in these certain situations? Hopefully Baldelli learned from this and said, look, if he's really wheeling and dealing, we can't take this guy out. I think he's learned from it, but knowing Minnesota sports, it's very likely that this could, go sideways. So, I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that, Voldy, in the postseason? I mean, is it... I could go wrong. I'm just saying that will it? We'll see. But yeah, Voldy, what do you think? Yeah, are you concerned if they go into the postseason with this crew or what?
I mean, honestly, you get the pieces back that were important. Obviously, you get Nelson Cruz back in the lineup as well. A little bit more solidification, a full offseason for the likes of Josh Donaldson to see if his leg is going to hold up this year. Yep. You keep him in the lineup, and hopefully he can play a full, healthy season. That's going to be a big difference maker. This rotation, too, if they do go the 6-man rotation, I think it's one of the smartest moves that you can do in baseball right now, considering the fact of last season that it was a shortened year and everybody had to kind of play catch up as things kind of went along to extend out some arms and, keep everybody safe for your team overall. But, looking at it from the disappointment last year as well, taking Barrios out in game 2 there when he was rolling, it wasn't like he was getting hit around.
Right.
He was, it was a 1-2 run game and the Twins offense didn't reciprocate because after they take Barrios out, everybody felt deflated. It's just like, well, that's not good. And, well, what the hell are we going to do now? And end up losing, getting swept out of the postseason, as in typical Twins fashion. But, I mean, I look at it right now as the team currently stands. I feel very comfortable with this team going into it, even with the pieces they did add with Jay Happ. You did throw in a couple of pieces with Colome for the bullpen and even Hansel Robles, a couple of former closers. You get a little bit of sure help on the infield defense with Andrelton Simmons at shortstop as well to move a couple guys around to maybe some more comfortable positions. I mean, this team looks pretty darn good on paper right now.
So let's see what happens. I mean, I think they report this week, don't they? Or is it next week?
They're already reporting.
They're reporting. So
and
there you go.
Workouts begin, I think, either tomorrow or Friday. So first game's on the 28th. Here we go.
And as Hunt's is saying, we just want a playoff win right now. Exactly.
More than anything. And you can't lose to a 500 team who just recently got caught for cheating not too long ago, too. So just throwing that out there. So, but anyway, let's move on to our next segment. It is time. It's been a while since we've done this. It's time for some Infinity rankings. And tonight, folks, we're going to be focusing on the Vikings offseason, okay? Because I feel like this needs to be addressed before we get into the free agency, which is coming up in March. And, there might be trades, and then the draft obviously going to be coming up here in April and whatnot. So, we got to go through my top things that the Vikings need to do this offseason. So let's get it rolling with some Infinity rankings.
While many have power rankings, none have captured them all. It's time for Matty C's Infinity rankings.
All right, it's time for Infinity rankings, and Voldy, it's something that I think we need to go over because honestly, I don't think we've talked much about the Vikings ever since the season ended. So
no, not particularly.
So anyway, here are the top 6 things the Vikings need to address, and the zoners are going to like a lot of these, okay? Now, if you think differently on some of these too, please chime in and, rearrange how you would want to do it as well. So, here are my top 6. Boom! There it is. So, Voldy, starting with number 6, the Vikings need to go out and get a new safety. Alongside Harrison Smith, I might add. Now, it's tough for me to do this, Voldy, but, Anthony Harris did not have a good season. And the zoners,
Nope.
too. Anthony Harris could not tackle worth a damn. Anthony Harris, I don't think, even had one interception this season. Maybe he did. I don't know. But I think they're going to move on from him. Now you have to start looking at a safety, whether in free agency, or you could in the draft, depending on how comfortable you feel about getting somebody you want in the draft. But either way, go into free agency, go into the draft and look for some options there. And as the Kerf Doctor likes to say, all 5 stones, O-line, 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 line. We'll get to that in a second. Though. So, number 6, new safety alongside Harrison Smith. We'll see what happens with that. So, moving on to my next Infinity Stone. We need a punt returner, for God's sakes. I mean, oh my God. KJ Osborne was terrible. And even the guys that went in and, I mean, you know, I hate to rip on Chad Beebe because I do like Beebe a lot, but
right.
he muffed the punt as well. They couldn't rely on him. Mike Hughes was hurt because we thought Mike Hughes was going to be that guy too. But, for goodness sake, I mean, why couldn't we figure this out? And Maloof is probably somewhat a part of it, but at the same time, too, look at the guys that he was working with. They were not good. But here's one thing I think you're going to like here, Voldy. Bring Cheryl's back, says
Absolutely.
EZA. I wouldn't be opposed. Much like, I think, I don't know. Maybe he still got it. We'll see. He did come back for that brief moment in time, but I don't know what happened after that. Spot on to me. The only change is if either Chase or Harris falls to them in the draft, maybe they take another receiver in the first round.
Interesting.
I wouldn't be opposed to that either, because then you have Thielen, Jefferson, and Chase, and or Devontae Smith. Oh, man, that's going to be insanely good. That's like 3 deep right there almost. I mean, that's crazy. But, yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. Well, moving on to our next one, and this is perfect. Honestly, I should have thought of this one when Hunt's put this up here, but wide receiver number 3. Now, I feel like teams, Voldy, are going to be keying in on Justin Jefferson, obviously, and I'm not saying that they didn't during his rookie season, but they're definitely going to make note of this guy because he is going to be doubled and like no other. Thielen, Thielen's always a threat, and Thielen is always, shown why he's one of the best wide receivers right now. One of the top 10 wide receivers in the game right now. Now, if they add a number, if they don't get the Chase or if they don't get Smith and everything like that, okay, but if they look into free agency, they're looking for a number 3. I think you gotta find someone that's going to be at least serviceable. Because remember Tajay Sharp? Remember when he was supposed to be 2 alongside Thielen and he played maybe 10 downs that season?
And they let him go 2 weeks before the end of the year, too.
Exactly. So then we're kind of sitting there scratching our heads thinking, like, what the hell is going on here? Cheryl's is way too old. No way I want him back. It's just... That's another thing too. The age is definitely something with Cheryl's, but I don't know. Maybe he gets a second win. But anyway, it's all in good fun. But moving on to our next Infinity Stone, Tyrell Williams. Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea. Tyrell Williams. He's dealing with injuries, but I wouldn't be opposed to that either. All right, number 3, veteran corners. Now, why are there's like well, we got to wait on the guys that are going to be, we got to wait on the guys that are going to be rookies or not, are going to be second year. And, obviously with Dantzler, Gladney, and, I don't think Hughes is going to be staying too long. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. And I think they're going to go into free agency. They got to get some veteran guys in there. I think that you can't just assume that these young guys need to develop. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't start Dantzler, they shouldn't start Gladney, because honestly, they played pretty well. So it's going to be interesting to see who's available and who might be on the market. Or maybe they, work out a trade. Slick Rick has been known to make some interesting moves. So there's a lot to get going with that. But I look at this as number 3 because I feel like it is so crucial. Think about this. When the Vikings went and got Terrence Newman, right? They kept re-signing him. Because he helped Xavier, he helped Trey Waynes, and honestly, I feel like Terrence Newman really kind of helped them elevate their game. And not only that, Terrence Newman played at a high level too. So
that he did.
So you got to factor that in as well. That's why I put that at number 3, because I think it is very important for the Vikings to have that. Matt says Kevin King will be available if the Vikings want him. No. So I'm going to say no to that one there, Chief. But just throwing that out there. Victor says, I think Gladney and Dantzler did a decent job, considering especially Dantzler in the second half of the year. Exactly. I'm not saying, like, if they don't go out and get a veteran corner, I'll be super disappointed. Because honestly, maybe they're showing signs that they're going to be that good. So you got to think about that. But yes, I liked how they played too. I'm a big fan of how they played as well. So, we'll see what happens. I think, the free agent market, I don't know if there's anyone that you're like, oh, we got to go and grab that guy or anything like that. I haven't heard much talk about that, but let's wait and see how that turns out. Number 2. Now, the reason why I'm going with number 2 is that D-line. I know it might look like O-line, but again, that's kind of how the letters are. But number 2 has to be D-line. And exactly, Victor, that's what I'm saying. We need cornerback depth, and that's what they definitely need. Because we can't have, or Chris Jones or whoever it was that was playing that time. For the Vikings, who can't tackle worth a darn. AJ Bouye, that's another interesting name as well. Maybe he can get rid of some of those obviously not be as injury prone as he has been now, with the Broncos and whatnot. But he was really good in Jacksonville, so I don't know. That might be a interesting thought. The reason why, and Easy A says it, number 2 because the need of quarterback pressure. Why do I have this at number 2? Well, without Daniil, without Michael Pierce, and obviously Linval, we got rid of Linval last year, DJ Wanham has some promise, and he made a lot of good plays too. And I'm not saying that I think he can develop, but the interior was terrible. Okay, and Shamar Stephen, people spoke highly of him and everything like that. He's kind of the unknown, the guy that's not, very known, but he makes a big impact. But honestly, I didn't see an impact when Alvin Kamara went 6 touchdowns on the Vikings. Now, I understand with Kendricks and whatnot, and Jaleel Johnson, he talks a lot on Twitter and, these Vikings fans, but he never backs it up in games. It's like, dude, you got to be doing more here. So you got to look at the interior and get some big guys up. Michael Pierce hopefully coming back, is going to help. But you got to also get some other guys in there. Voldy, let me ask you this. Whatever happened to James Lynch? Remember him? He had that one sack in Seattle. Play. Yeah, I know. It's just
didn't play him.
I don't know. I don't know why they didn't play him. That's my question. But I think they got to look at the interior and start building in the interior, because if they don't, it's not going to look good. Especially, even with Kendricks back, that'll help. But you got to stop the run in this league too. If you want to, do well, and getting pressure, having Daniil back's going to help. But we need another pass rusher. So here's the question too. It's like, well, do you look at obviously J.J. Watt? Not saying that they will. I'm just saying, do you look at a J.J. Watt? Do you look at a guy in the draft and develop? Do you people are like, oh, what about Everson? Well, I don't know if Everson's going to be the full time. I just don't think the Vikings are going to pull the trigger on that. But in order to be successful, too, you have to have pass rushers. And the reason why KC made it to the game is they had Frank Clark, Chris Jones, Tampa Bay, JPP, Shaq Barrett. This is how you have to have those pass rushers. With Daniil back, that'll help. If they go after Watt, I'm fine with that. I think it would be great. He'd have great leadership on the defense. And, hell, watch out. I could see this. It could materialize. We'll see. Let's get to the zoners before I get to my next one. I would look either the interior or good outside, the outside on the D-line as a good possibility for the first-round pick, too. I think they will. I think Russo or something like that, the guy from Miami, has been kind of in talks and things like that. It seems like it is Zim-esque, so there's that. J.J. Watt would be prime, says Easy A. Yeah, it would be. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm just saying. I think it would actually work out okay. When your pass rush can't get to the QB, come on. There we go. When your pass rush can't get to the QB, your young corners will get exposed. Exactly. So that's why we got to have Daniil back. That's why they're going to go out and hopefully get another pass rusher, because the defense showed a lot of leaks in there. Watt in Cleveland is looking like a real possibility right now. That could be.
Oh, joy.
Oh, joy. Oh, joy, as we like to say. All right, let's get to our last one, because, Voldy, I want to hear your thoughts. Okay? Number one. The Kerf Doctor has said this, and I've said this. Voldy, you've said this. The zoners have said this. We need O-line, 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 O-line. Just anything with the interior, I'm saying, okay? With all these old linemen, you need to go out and get someone in for Dakota Dozier, okay? Now, he has shown signs that he can be good, but not on a consistent basis. There have been times where he has been terrible. Elfline, kind of the same way. Even though he was good as a center, then he moves to guard. Oh, my God. It's just been bad. So we need to go out and put in a left guard that can get it done, okay? Now, if they stick with Dakota Dozier, I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't know if I feel comfortable with that, because I feel like if you add a guy that is solid and can get you, I'm not saying that Dakota Dozier is just the worst thing ever. I just don't think he's a good full-time starter. That's all I'm saying. But they have to look at the O-line. That is the biggest thing. I don't know if the Vikings stick with Reef, I'm fine with that, because he had a great season, okay? He really did have a good season, and I give him a lot of credit, because I've ripped him on many occasions. But you have Cleveland. I don't know if you're going to move Cleveland back if Reef doesn't want to come. I mean, there's a lot of factors into it, but I feel like this is the time for Rick Spielman, Mike Zimmer, to address this issue, because if we don't address this issue, they will be targeting our left guard spot every time. So we got to figure out a way to fix that. Let's get to the zoners, then Voldy, I want your thoughts on this. Left guard, 100%. Thank you, Victor. Exactly. And as the Kerf Doctor's probably laughing his butt off right now, especially with all this O-line stuff. How about bringing back our old friend back who just got cut by New Orleans? If you get him at a good price, maybe Slick Rick can. Nick Easton could be up there too. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed, but he's had some games too. So I've seen some. So maybe, I don't know. Except center, Bradbury is good. There's that too. I mean, you can work with that. O'Neal's been good. So there's a lot of positives, but the thing is, they have to address this offseason. We can't keep going back and forth with this whole thing. As the train's going by as well, you gotta realize that the train agrees with the O-line issue. So, Voldy, your thoughts on our list here?
Well, I think it's a pretty solid list overall. I kind of feel as if, like, number 4 and number 5, wide receiver 3, and punt returner, kick returner, that's one and the same right there. You get a young guy who could be that number 3 receiver. He's definitely going to fall into that return game as well. It's worked out for a few guys in the past that have played significant for the Vikings. I mean, Cordero Patterson, you had Adrian Peterson returning kicks when he started his career as well. I think the safety help is definitely going to be a big one because we're not getting any younger back there, and we're already going to be potentially losing Anthony Harris. And let's not forget that they signed him at the end of the year, George Iloka. I mean, he was a guy that came back for the Vikings towards the end of the year. Didn't play all that much, maybe one game at the most, but defensive backs in general for that, because especially losing Chris Jones too, which, I mean, really doesn't make a difference overall to begin with, need to be able to help out on the back end of the defense, especially when you're not getting that pressure on the defensive line. Jaleel Johnson is a free agent this year too, and just needs something, a bit of a spark plug to get that back too, whether it's through the draft. Maybe you get a veteran out on the waivers too to pick up a guy. I mean, any veteran presence on that defensive side when guys are healthy is huge, because, the Vikings weren't playing all that bad when, at least it was Eric Kendricks out of the field. Well, then you lose Eric Kendricks, and, it all kind of went downhill from that point on. And, you lose Anthony Barr literally at the first couple games of the year. Second game of the year, you lose him, and that's a real punch in the gut. Danielle Hunter's not playing this year. You lose, Michael Pierce. He opts out for the season too. I don't know what the chemistry is going to be with that, with guys coming back this year too. And you throw in the offensive line. Obviously, that's always a big need right off the bat. I don't think we've had, at least in the last decade, going into an offseason and the next year be like, you know what? I think we're good on the offensive line. I think we're going to be just fine. Then you throw in, that third receiver position. Chad Beebe's going to be a free agent. You'd like to keep him around, but if he can't do whatever limited role that he has to begin with. Olabisi Johnson regressed this past year. I mean, Tajay Sharp, they ended up cutting him after picking him up during this last offseason. The other guys that are going to be free agents, Eric Wilson's going to be a free agent. The linebacker spot, Hercules Monteafa, is also going to be a free agent. There's two linebackers that played a lot more than they thought they were going to be this year. And Odenabo, too, Afeti, he's going to be a free agent, too. I mean, that already takes away. If he doesn't sign back with the Vikings, that's already losing one guy that played a lot of snaps. I mean, the production in the sack category wasn't a big high number for the Vikings this year, but whatever experience coming back after it was such a down year for the Vikings defense is going to help in the long run, especially with these young guys that going into the year didn't have a lick of sense when it came to playing NFL defense. And you learned on the fly. You start off 0-5, you try to get back to 500, and now you're just playing for pride and basically a draft spot. And I think overall there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed, and this is just a small little microcosm of, I mean, we could do a whole list of probably 10, 15 things that the Vikings need to address as well overall, but, we could do an entire show based on that alone.
We definitely could. We might have to do another, special or something like that. But let's get to the zoners here, because actually we do have some breaking news. Actually, a couple things. Address the line in the draft or free agency.
Yes.
To both. I'd probably just say both.
No las dos.
I just say both. Let's see. The one thing I want to bring up too is that I think the Vikings made a mistake is when they had the opportunity to go get Roger Saffold, they missed it because he has been very good for the Tennessee Titans.
Saffold the third.
That was a miss. That
one hurt.
Miss.
That one hurt.
That was a miss. Hunt says if we stay with this O-line, we better find a QB that can run a 4-3. That's true. That is very true. But anyway, we're going to go off of the Vikings here just for a second because we have breaking news, Voldy. Fernando Tatis Jr. just signed an extension worth 14 years, $340 million. What?
That's some big time FU Mike Trout money right there, boy.
Man, the Padres are just saying, this is our guy, man. And
lock it in.
My gosh, that guy is rich beyond belief right now. But, he's that good too. So I mean, there's that.
Apparently,
there's that to fall back on. But
wowzers.
Anyway, just wanted to drop that news for you. But that'll do it for Infinity Rankings. Obviously, like Voldy said, we could go on all day with the needs and whatnot. Or they get to all of them? Probably not. But that's the NFL. You can't get to every need. That's the issue. You have to at least, go forward with some of the stuff, especially O-line. You're welcome, Curve Doctor. Anyway, Voldy, it's time to move on to ARA. And there's a lot. There's actually one of your stories that you've brought up in ARA. There's been breaking news on that as well. But we'll get to that in a second because, we got to get through some other ARA stories as well. So let's get it going with some absurd or approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it's time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, spring training has officially arrived with pitchers and catchers reporting to their major league teams as of today, believe it or not. Yeah. And, workouts do begin at the end of the week for multiple ball clubs. First Twins spring training game, February 28th against the Red Sox, by the way. But, nobody's really paying attention to that. But it did unveil the chance for some of the non-roster invitees for the Minnesota Twins. And there were a couple interesting names on there that you would thought would have been a part of the main squad, if not the minor league team as well, or maybe just, the 40-man roster. Looking at, of course, the overall makeup of the non-roster invitees, there's some guys with some major league experience and, of course, top prospects that maybe will be wearing an actual Twins uniform here in the next year or so, or even knows this season. The likes of top prospects Royce Lewis and Trevor Larnach are among the non-roster invitees invited to a spring training camp. Absurd or Approved, the roster that does make up for the likes of the Minnesota Twins non-roster invitees.
No, I mean, honestly, I would say it's got my stamp of approval because it's just, but the non-roster invitees. Now, I want someone to help me or explain this to Voldy and I, okay, or something like that. Why aren't Lewis, who is, again, people keep talking about as, our next, a big star here, and Larnach? I mean, they've been talking about him too. So why weren't they invited? Is my question, because these are the guys that are supposed to be the future and everything like that. But I feel like they've been in the minors and things like this for like ages now. And Voldy, before the show, you and I talked about this. What the hell happened to Nick Gordon? I mean, where's he been too? I mean, what's going on with that is my question. So I don't know what they're trying to do per se. I don't know if it's a different, if it's well, they're not ready yet type of thing, if that's what they're telling people, or if they're telling people, hey, we just want to make sure that, we'll have them when they're ready, type of thing. It's kind of defeats, the purpose of. I mean, they got to come up at some point, right? I mean, hopefully they do. That's my question. So I'm a little bit concerned with that, but at the same time, if someone can explain it to me, maybe it's not that big of a deal. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. I think Hunt's may have an answer for me here. Both guys lost last year with no minor league baseball. Lewis hasn't developed as quickly as they thought he would. Okay, well, I think that probably answers our question with it. So, but again, going back to your question, Voldy, the non-roster invitees, I think it's fine. I just think, they're just trying to make sure that, when these guys are ready, they'll bring them up. That's just how it'll work. But, Voldy, what do you think?
Yeah, I think looking at it overall, especially with some of these younger guys like Larnach, and you throw in, obviously, Sabato as well, who was the top draft pick from last year, and even throw in, Royce Lewis too. They lose last year. That's a big year that they lost with minor league baseball, especially going into their second, third, if not fourth year in the minor leagues for the Twins. And that would have been a make or break year this past year for those guys. But especially when you lose an entire season and, the possibility of it not maybe playing a full season again, kind of taking it day by day is something to keep in mind. And now it's just about kind of redeveloping a lot of things, see what they're good at, see what lies ahead for them as well. You throw Kirilloff in the mix as well. It's also going to be a part of the 40-man roster for the Twins too. Then you look at some of the other guys that maybe will be trying to play for a spot for, maybe the St. Paul Saints coming into this year. Andrew Albers, you throw in Danny Colomb, Luke Farrell, Derek Law to help out in the bullpen. Then you throw in some position guys, Sue Lin, who was with the Red Sox for a few years, JT Riddle, then, a guy who was the starting center fielder for the Milwaukee Brewers a few years ago, Keon Broxton. Rob Repsnyder's bounced around a little bit, mostly with the Yankees in his career too. There's a lot of guys that have brought in some major league experience. It's just going to be very interesting to see how it all plays out with this group. And you throw in the regulars, the guys that they're going to be making the team. But some of these guys could be some of those bubble players that they do have impressive springs.
So we got some of the, Mets has brought up a good point too. Lewis also plays a position that is log jammed at shortstop, which is true. It's true. And, I get that. I get that they want to develop these guys and whatnot. But for some reason, I just feel like Lewis has been down there for how long, But, obviously with COVID last year and whatnot, makes it tough. So I get that. Lewis has been talked either shortstop or third baseman. Arnich has logjam in the outfield too. Okay, yeah, I understand that from that perspective too. Gordon, I think, has been doing pretty well. He could be used possibly for a trade chip down the line. Well, that's true too, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Log jammed, as we're just kind of putting this right now. So, but yeah, it's fine. I think they got the guys that they need to send and whatnot. So we'll just have to wait a little bit longer. But that's just how it is. So, oh well. Next one, Voldy.
Well, we kind of stay with a little bit of some Minnesota flavoring, and it was announced this past week that, of course, the Minneapolis Star-Tribune bringing back the Minnesota Sports Hall of Fame, and a pretty decent class looking like for the 2021 class of up and down in the decades and the years as well. Soon-to-be inductees do include the likes of Ed Rogers, Natalie Darwitz, Tony Stone, Chris Dolman, the late great Chris Dolman, Kevin McHale, Bob McDonald as well, the inductees for the 2021 class of the Minnesota Sports Hall of Fame. Looking at the class overall, give me your thoughts on it.
Yeah, well, first of all, stamp of approval. Seeing Chris Dolman in there is fantastic, especially because, he was a great player for the Vikings. He was a great defensive end. I think he's got the franchise record in sacks and whatnot. So, Kevin McHale, of course, Golden Gopher and whatnot, and then obviously with the Wolves, and obviously that didn't pan out as well as we thought it would with the Wolves. Mm-hmm. But again, it makes sense. Natalie Darwitz, I think, is most deserving. Pretty much everyone on this list is deserving. I'm glad the Star Tribune brought it back. I don't know why they would. I don't know why they stopped it, unless I totally missed something. But again, it's something to where you just gotta have a Minnesota Sports Hall of Fame. It's something to look forward to, and all of them are very deserving. So I'll make it easy. It's got my stamp of approval. Voldy, what do you think?
There's nothing but people on this list that are trailblazers in multiple areas as well. Natalie Darwitz, age 15, makes the U.S. women's national hockey team to become the youngest player to ever do that for men's or women's. Tony Stone played for the Indianapolis Clowns of the Negro Leagues back in 1953, the first woman to play regularly in a major men's professional baseball league. Then you've got, some of the stalwarts, Kevin McHale, of, his accolades on and off the court. Obviously being a coach and also being a great player, championships with the Boston Celtics, and even a great player in high school, college as well. And you get Bob McDonald, who was a great coach for Chisholm back in the day as well. Recently did pass away, though, unfortunately. Rest in peace, Coach McDonald. 53 years he coached with the Blue Streaks up in Chisholm High School. Ed Rogers, a name probably not a lot of people on our side of the generation know, but kicked the extra point in 1903 to seal a tie between Minnesota and Michigan, leading to the fact of the birth of the Little Brown Jug as well, because fans were storming the field, and that Minnesota custodian as finding the Little Brown Jug that was left behind, and thus making it the rivalry that it is today, one of the oldest rivalries, if not the oldest rivalry in all of college football. And then you get Chris Dolman. I mean, Chris Dolman was a playmaker from the very jump, and, sadly he passed away not too long ago as well. But overall, the entire list, a very solid list, to say the least.
Very solid, and I just can't say enough good things. Keep it going. That's all I got to say, Star Tribune. So claps out to them. We're giving them applause right now because why the heck not, as the Curve Doctor likes to say. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, it was big news earlier this week, late last week, I should say, that J.J. Watt and the Houston Texans have officially parted ways, thus opening the free agent frenzy that it is. Where's J.J. Watt going to go to now? And former teammates, current players, all lining things up to see where J.J. Watt wants to go for his next team. I mean, he is still a great player if he can stay healthy. Of course, was drafted with the 11th pick to be the face of the franchise, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, and I mean, just one of 3 players to win it 3 times when he's been on the field, when he's been healthy, but overall still makes a difference in the lineup, out of the lineup, in the community overall. My question is, where is J.J. Watt going to be ending up? Where do you think he'll land?
That's a great question. Now, some people probably think I'm just going to say, the Vikings, because I need him. I mean, I'm not ruling it out. I've been thinking about it, and honestly, I don't think it will happen with Minnesota. Now, the one thing that would concern me a lot is if he went to Green Bay. And the last thing that Vikings fans and the NFC North in general, and maybe even the NFC need, is J.J. Watt, Darius Smith, Preston Smith, all on one line. That's a lethal combination. So I might have to revert to what Hunt said, I think, earlier about the Cleveland Browns. I think that would be a pretty good fit for J.J. Watt. It's just, I don't want to throw it just because, Vikings would have made sense. I think he'd be a great leader. I think it'd be a great fit. Not saying that it wouldn't. It depends on the cap situation, too, with the Vikings. But another thing that we have to put into perspective, too, is that Huntz has brought up a good point. Arizona, Green Bay, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay. Oh, man, Tampa Bay would be really good.
Yikes.
If they got J.J. Watt on the team. Oh, my gosh. But another team that was kind of recent, DeAndre Hopkins had a post recently on Instagram with him and J.J. Watt. So is the Arizona Cardinals a possibility? I could see that, definitely be another good possibility for the Cardinals to go out and, get J.J. Watt. Pittsburgh, playing with his brother. That you'd think would make the most sense. I'm just going to go with my gut. I'm probably going to say the Pittsburgh Steelers because I feel like he wants to play with his brother. And I think it would make sense because you play alongside your brother, you're going to have a good time and whatnot. But, again, Big Ben definitely showed his age in the playoffs here. So, but he wants to go to contender. That's the big if as well. Okay, so Met says Watt would have to take a big hometown discount because of the Packers cap situation. Well, I'm not complaining about it, that's for sure. I'm not sitting here saying, I'd be fine with him not going to Wisconsin whatsoever with Green Bay. Hopefully not in the division, the division for the Vikings at least. But I think he's going to go to the contender. I'm saying the Steelers. Voldy, what do you think?
I think he'll definitely stay in the AFC as kind of the conference that he's gotten used to as well. I think going to the NFC would probably be not to the liking that he would want to. I think the door is wide open on Pittsburgh right now. Obviously, it'd be nice to have all the Watt brothers, TJ, JJ, and Derek in there as well. He's a fullback for the team as well that doesn't get a whole lot of love in the first place. Pittsburgh's certainly at the top of my list. Cleveland as well, be able to face, his brothers at least twice a year in that respect. Buffalo, Tennessee, a couple of dark horses, Arizona brought in there too. But I definitely think that it's a match made in heaven. I mean, with Pittsburgh, they're a defensive team. They want to be able to put things together and help shore up, because we don't know what the offense is going to be looking like going into this year. If, Big Ben's going to be hanging around for at least another year or not. And kind of took a little bit of a shot to the chin towards the end of the year, did Pittsburgh in their offense overall, but the defense could certainly use a nice, a nice little added incentive there. But I think the Steelers is the way to go for him.
I think so too. I just think you got to look at things from a different perspective with this, because, I mean, it would make sense, and then especially having that leadership on the defense is impressive. They had a really good defense last year, so I mean, it's something that they'll make note of. They'll make note of. So, but don't be surprised if it's somebody else. And I'm not hinting at the Vikings. I'm just saying that, I mean, it's very possible he could be going to a contender. I think some people even mentioned the Chiefs. So that's another, interesting development too, if that were ever to catch some steam, as we would say here. Next one, Voldy.
Well, this time we go to the NBA here, and it's a very interesting situation that's kind of taking the ability for one player to be able to market himself at all, because he's not going to be doing anything besides sitting on the bench. Cleveland Cavaliers did announce earlier this week that they're going to be no longer playing center Andre Drummond, as they work out a way to trade him before the March 25th deadline. Cavaliers did say that they're going to make Jarrett Allen the franchise's long-term starting center, and believe it's, quote, unfair to Drummond to limit his minutes as organization transitions to Allen. Is it absurd or approve Cleveland shutting down Drummond when he's perfectly capable of playing, just to try and trade him overall?
This is very controversial now in the NBA, doing things like this. And, obviously there's players that get rest and things like that. But, there's teams that do it really well. There's teams that do it terribly. And, for the Cavs to say, look, we're going to trade you, but we're kind of, we're kind of going to move on and, go from there. And Drummond, he was wearing a sweatshirt that said farewell on it. And, what they're concerned about, and what it is they're concerned about, if he gets hurt, then, they'll lose, teams will lose interest and whatnot. So I think they're trying to take the smart approach in that sense. But in the other sense, too, he's fully healthy. He can play. I mean, wouldn't you want to show off a little bit of your, of your game, too, to teams, saying, like, hey, we got to get this guy. He's only 27 years old, and he's a very good player. He's very good, so, who knows? Okay. Hunt says, I don't understand why they're doing that. True, I can see where you're coming from. James Harden just jogged and played in Houston. I don't agree with Draymond Green at all, but what he said in his press conference was spot on, which is true. I feel like there's a lot of hypocrisy in the NBA. I can't speak today. But it's, it depends on how you want to, deal with this thing. And with Mets saying right here, like what the Pelicans did with Anthony Davis before he got traded to LA. So there's that too. But it's such a weird thing now with the NBA, because usually, like, if you're in trade talks and everything like that, you're playing. Unless you're going to be like General Soreness, like Jimmy Butler, in that whole situation. But we won't get into that. But the one thing with Drummond is that if he's able to play, I mean, you don't have to play him a lot, but I mean, wouldn't it be boring just to sit there and wait till someone, trades? I mean, is this going to happen soon or what? I think that's the big question, but how they're handling it, it's very controversial, and like Hunt said, Draymond was spot on in what he said too. So I don't know. I guess I say it's a little absurd because I feel like if this is going to go on for a long time, then, what's the point of, it's like, well, I'm not going to play. It's like, well, that's kind of dumb. I mean, wouldn't you want to play? You play basketball for a living. If this goes on for weeks, the team that gets him now has to get him into game shape. That could take some time. There you go. I don't get it. But, Voldy, what do you think?
I mean, if they're going to wait the 5 weeks to get him traded, I mean, that's certainly going to be the second half of the season. That's what's going to take for whichever team gets Andre Drummond to at least get him back into game shape. It's not like he was doing terrible. 17.5 points, 13.5 rebounds a game in 25 starts this year alone. I mean, he's playing out a $28.7 million contract, but I just don't understand why you wouldn't at least put him out there to say, hey, look at what we've got here. I mean, we're more than ready to trade out what we've got right now. And he's putting up the numbers. He's helping us contend here with literally nobody else around him. 17.5 points, 13.5 rebounds certainly helps him in that respect when it's been, a consistent play for him this season. But now that he's sat 3-4 games, I think now at this point, it's not really helping him out overall. I mean, he's in his prime. He's 27 right now. And, they're going to try and go with a 22-year-old in his replacement who's putting up 13.7 rebounds and almost 2 blocks a game. I just don't understand why they would just continue to play him off and just say, we're just going off of what we know and make do with what we got, I guess. But I would just like to see the trade happen soon for Andre Drummond's sake.
Well, here's what I'm reading right now, and I think this is interesting too. And it's not like he's pulling a Butler and being a jackass, but according to the Cavs coach, Bickerstaff says he's been great. He was in the locker room at halftime having conversations with guys about what he saw on the floor. He was there after the game. He's been tremendous through the whole thing, and it's not easy. So at least he's like helping out other guys, chatting with other guys, not making a big deal. But at the same time, it's a tough situation. I mean, you could go either way. You protect, you try to protect the guy and make sure he doesn't get hurt by benching him and doing all this stuff. But at the same time, you're preventing him from playing basketball too. I mean, which is maybe do something with his minutes. I don't know that. Just an idea. So, anyway, next one, Voldy. But I guess we're gonna have to change this a little bit because we have breaking news regarding Mr. Tim Tebow. Rattle off.
Well, this was going to be about if Tim Tebow's got a shot to make the major leagues this year with the New York Mets. But coming out here before the start of the show, Tim Tebow's decided to retire from professional baseball.
Wow.
And he was invited to big league camp with the New York Mets after spending last year in AAA for pretty much, I should say it was going to be in AAA, but obviously minor league baseball did not happen last year. But it would have been a very interesting situation for him to see if he was going to make the major league team. I guess is the fact that what I was going to ask was, do you think Tebow had a shot at making the Mets this year? And I guess we already know the answer to it, but do you think he would have made it?
Yeah, I don't know. That's the big question. Is that, I mean, he's hit a home run. Well, okay, I don't think he would have, to be honest. I'm looking at some of the stats, and it's not the greatest. But if he did make the team, sure. I know he's hit a home run, with them being on the minor league team. But I think, he wanted to try it out, and I got no problem with him trying out a different sport and everything like that. Do I think he would have made the team? Probably not, to be honest with you. It's the past 4 years, he hit 151 in 34 games. Yeah, I don't think that's going to get you to where you want to go. But I applaud the effort. He's a good guy. I like Tebow. I think he's, I think him retiring just kind of so he can focus more on the college football aspect too. And Hunt says too, no, he wouldn't have. He wouldn't have. So there's that. But, you never know. I mean, remember, a lot of people thought Tebow wasn't going to be that good of a quarterback in the NFL. He had that one couple good years, but still, at the same time, it only lasts for so long. But Tebow made it further than Michael Jordan. Now, that's interesting.
It's true.
That's interesting. So, but I guess congratulations on retiring, Tim Tebow. So you get ready for the college football season coming up here. So, Voldy, what do you think?
I don't think he would have made the Mets this year. If it would have been, he would have been down in AAA for the majority of the year, and he probably would have been one of those September call-ups if the Mets were winning by 20 games or losing by 20 games. He would have been one of those guys in there to fill in for maybe an at-bat or two and just be one of those real feel-good stories at the end of the year. Obviously, he finishes his career. Obviously, we did mention hitting 151 the last 4 years in 34 games, but 2 years ago, he was with Syracuse, the AAA team, and hit 163, 4 home runs, and 19 RBIs. Not gaudy numbers, but when you're a 33-year-old former NFL quarterback trying to play minor league baseball with some of the best talent in the system, that's pretty decent. And the fact that he was able to put the ball in play a little bit of subpar outfield defense, but he definitely wouldn't have made it initially out of the camp with the Mets, but I think he probably would have been a September call-up at some point. It just would have been a question of how long was he going to be doing it for.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the big question too. But I think Tebow probably thought, well, I think this is over. But apparently, Cole thinks that it's an absurd statement that I made. Did you say Tebow had a couple good years at QB? Well, he went to the playoffs, didn't he? Didn't he win a playoff game, if I remember correctly?
He did.
He had a couple good. I never said that it was like a couple is like two. Okay, a couple is like two. Cole. Now let's remember who you think with Ricky Rubio. Okay, and how well has he done? He had one good game this past week, but that's about it. That's all I've heard. So just want to throw that out there to you.
Yep.
But I don't think that's absurd statement territory because, again, he won a playoff game. He beat the Steelers. They were supposed to kill the Steelers. And, look, Tebow got it done. So just wanted to throw that out there. But I think that'll do it for ARA, I believe, right, Voldy?
Yes, sir.
And I think we got to move on to some Shield shout-outs. He started for 1 year. Yeah, but then he came in and played well, too. I'm not saying that he was amazing. I'm saying that he had 1 or 2 good years, okay? That's it. Stop it. Anyway, let's get to some Shield shout-outs. Voldy's got a couple good ones tonight. Gosh, we keep going on this Tebow thing. His pro career wasn't great. He was one of the best college football one of the best college football players in history. Blah blah blah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. And then Munson says got traded to the Keys and sat behind Sanchez. All right. Whatever, Cole. Just leave it at that. All right, let's get to some Shield shout-outs.
Shield shout-outs.
All right, enough of this Tebow crap. Voldy, who are you shouting out tonight?
Well, we'll have a much shorter list for Shield shout-outs this week, but still pretty impactful nonetheless. Do have to wish a happy retirement to the Pouncey twins out of Florida, Mike and Marquise Pouncey, who did announce their retirements from the NFL over the weekend. They've been stalwarts at the offensive line position with Pittsburgh and also in Florida. Well, one of them ended up, I forget where the other one ended up playing. Started initially in Miami, then ended up somewhere else at the end of his career. But hats off to the Pouncey twins for a good career. One of the last little round of the Tebow led Florida Gator group of players that was still in the NFL at this point. Unfortunately, we did have to say rest in peace to former Chargers and Buccaneers wide receiver Vincent Jackson, who was a playmaker in his time, who did pass away over the weekend as well. Still a lot of auspicious circumstances around that as news continues to come out about his untimely passing in his late 30s as well. But rest in peace to former Buccaneers and Chargers wide receiver Vincent Jackson. And did have to do a little bit of research on this one because it's one thing that I was keeping my eye on here with this past Super Bowl just over a week and a half ago. Buccaneers kicker Ryan Suckup can confirm this is the first ever Mr. Irrelevant. That's the final pick in the NFL draft to ever play in and win a Super Bowl title. He was drafted in 2009 and ended up being drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs.
Whoa.
Ends up kicking against his former team. He did go to the likes of Tennessee at one point in his career, ends up with the Buccaneers, and well, lo and behold, ends up winning the Super Bowl. First ever Mr. Irrelevant to win that distinction as a Super Bowl champion.
Wow.
There have been some Mr. Irrelevants over the years. Chad Kelly was one of them, if he could ever figure out his personal life to be able to stick around the NFL, even though that's not going to be a likely thing anymore. But that's going to do it for Shield Shoutouts this week.
It's going to do it for Shield as Shoutouts. Great job again, Voldy. Short but sweet. Short but sweet. We love it. But here's another thing. Before we wrap up the show, I feel like this we got to make sure that the zoners know about some things. And I know we've talked about this a lot, but we have stickers.
Yeah, we do.
They're very cheap, by the way. If you don't have a sticker, we can get you a sticker. These are $2. These beautiful babies right here. And let's get you over to Voldy too, because he has some as well. The mini bumper stickers, as well, $2. Okay, $2. You want one? Talk to us. We'll get you some. And then also, if you want to go,
these guys are $2 as well.
and those are $2 as well. So make sure you check those out if you want those from Voldy. Now, if you want something a little bit to show people, hey, check this out, $3. You go up one, it just gets even better. Nice car bumper stickers if you want to put it on your car and support MinneZona Sports Live. Or unless you want to do something else, that's cool too. Or if you want a window decal on your car or something else, $3. $3. And that is also $3 as well with our other logo. We love it. So make sure you guys talk to us because we can get you set up with some stickers because they're awesome and you can stick it on your water bottle. And it's great. It's great. And by the way, Voldy, I believe that we had a post recently. It's been a while since we've actually had people get shirts and post it. But Double Trouble has finally got their shirts. And we've got some more people that are getting shirts on the way as well. So
they are.
Claps out to Double Trouble. And they got their shirts. And the zoners are starting to buy it. Now remember, the shirts are $20, $5 shipping. You talk to Voldy, you talk to me, you can talk to the Curve Doctor, you can talk to Jimbo. Venmo, PayPal, we'll get you set up. Carrier pigeon, whatever. And then also we have sweatshirts, $40, $5 shipping. That's all you need. You put on a sweet. I mean, it's great. The sweatshirts are fantastic, and they're worth the money. I tell you what, I haven't heard a bad review about the sweatshirts. And speaking of sweatshirts, people that have bought them, they are coming your way. Jimbo is finishing up the order, or I think he might have already sent it off. I don't know.
Some of them are already in the mail. I can confirm that.
He can confirm that, so there's that. So make sure you get your sweatshirts, shirts, whatever you want. All right, then also, shout out to National Fleet Graphics for the stickers that they made for MinneZona Sports Live. They look fantastic, like we said before. And also, another shout out as well, Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson, for these bad boys as well. So shout out to them for that. W2 Performance. Make sure you check out the Barbell Nerds. They have a new episode out as well, so make sure you check out those guys. And also, these stickers for them, $2. So if you want to get a Barbell Nerds sticker, Will Rattel and Sean will get you set up, because why the heck not? And then also, one last thing, Voldy, Jack O'Keefe started up the Jack's Junkyard again. His
Yes, sir.
show.
Season 2.
Season 2 has started. Make sure you check out the latest episode. And make sure you subscribe to Jack's Junkyard. It's awesome. We were featured on Season 1, so there's that.
Yeah, we were.
It was a great time. So, anyways, great job, Voldy, as always. And, I think we'll be good to go for next week. And I think maybe even Voldy will be good to go as well. I mean, he'll be fully healthy and ready to go, right?
Hope so.
Fingers crossed.
So.
Fingers crossed. So, anyway, Zoners, thanks for tuning in tonight. And, look, I almost missed this. Hunt's got something here. Here's an idea. When fans are allowed back in the stands, how about a live show from Target Field or US Bank Stadium or something like that? As the Curve Doctor likes to say, that is an option. We've got options. I think that could be great. We've got some ideas floating around. Once COVID's over, we've got ideas floating around. So you guys be on the lookout. And, you might want to check something on Monday. There's a surprise that'll be waiting for you, hopefully. So stay tuned for what we got. All right, so as always, remember, folks, keep in the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.